And welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. We are broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We got a whole lot to get into today on the program. You're not going to find better NFL talk than we've got today. Diana Rossini from The Athletic coming up at 7 o'clock. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for his weekly visit from 8 to 8:30. And Joe Rexrode, the NFL schedule has been released. It is out.
Yeah.
What a day in the NFL calendar.
What a day. Man, way to milk it, NFL. Way to milk it. Good job. Yep. So, I mean, even last night, the stuff starts coming out. I'm watching the NFL Network, and after a few minutes, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go watch the hockey game now? Can I go?
Is there a live sport on?
I'll read the schedules later on the internet. Thanks. But, yeah, Titans. One primetime game.
Yeah.
Are people mad? Are people upset about this?
I don't know that people are like, I didn't really expect any, to be totally honest with you. I thought
Yeah, you
maybe
thought they'd
like
get
a
the big
Thursday
goose
night.
egg, huh?
I thought like Thursday night against, Jacksonville or somebody might be a possibility. But Monday Night Football, I did not expect. But they got themselves a kind of Monday Night Football game. I figured, they've been throwing in these doubleheaders more often on Monday Night Football, which I think is dumb.
I do too.
But I figured when the Titans landed one against Miami, I was like, okay, it's probably a doubleheader. And then turns out, yeah, it's a doubleheader.
Seahawks, Lions.
Yes.
Don't want to compete with the
It's like,
mighty
guys,
Lions.
if we have to put the Titans on Monday Night Football, for the love of God, can we have another game? They did the same thing last year.
Please give us an alternative.
Yes. So, yes, they have a primetime game, kind of.
Yeah.
It's now been cut in half. It's a primetime game. It's not its own standalone Monday night stuff.
So they have no standalone national games. Yeah. Yep. So back to that. Meanwhile, it looks like the Texans have a whole bunch.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Funny how that works.
It is. Jets have a whole lot, especially early in their season, too, which is like, all right, so let's make sure Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, and if he doesn't, then at least you don't get burned later in the year.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, last year it wouldn't have mattered. But, yeah, it didn't matter.
It did not. It did not at all.
Yeah, I think front-loading the Jets makes sense, for sure.
All right, should I roll through all 17 games for the Titans very, 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 very quickly?
Well, you could, but, I mean, I had an idea that maybe the three of us should pick the games.
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
Whatever.
You can roll through them.
We'll do that here in just a few minutes. Just give me your initial thoughts on the way the schedule plays out. And what's interesting about it is, like, the first four, you got the bye week in week 5, which Jeffrey Simmons, not very happy about, was tweeting about last night. There was that. The first four, you're opening at Chicago. You're home against Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. The Packers in week 3 at home. And then the non-standalone on the road Monday Night Football game against the Miami Dolphins. Those are your first 4 games. So you're talking about Chicago with Caleb Williams coming in on the road. A Jets team that's very talented. How good they're going to be, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Packers team that should be pretty good, and the Dolphins team that should be pretty good. I mean, it's a relatively difficult opening 4 games that the Titans have there.
I think it's the toughest 4 games you can find. The toughest. There's a 2-game stretch in October at Buffalo, at Detroit. That's tough. That's a 2-game stretch, but I think the schedule's actually pretty good for them, other than it doesn't really feel like a last-place schedule, right?
Yeah.
As we've talked about. NFC North, not a great year. Well, although the key here really is that opener. I mean, that opening stretch could be bad if they lose to Caleb Williams in Chicago. There's going to be a lot of attention on that opener. Obviously, with Caleb Williams debuting for the Bears, their latest attempt at a franchise quarterback. But if you lose that game, you could see how it could be quite a hole right away. I don't know. I'm with you. The Jets, I think, could be really good. But we thought that last year, and you have no idea. I mean, it's all about him being great still. But there's a lot around him for sure. And I'm pretty bullish. I mean, I don't know. I might be higher on your Packers than you are, but I can't deny what Jordan Love was doing late last year. I expect it to continue.
Yeah.
And so that's a tough one. And then those Dolphins, man, the one-arm push-ups that week.
Yeah.
After last year, it's going to be
not going to overlook
team-wide.
you. That's for sure.
Tua's going to do no arm push-ups with his chin. He's so mad about the way they blew that game.
Mike McDaniel will have Will Levis screaming at his teammates like on loop on the nice little projector screen that they've got up there. This is what this guy did to you last year on Monday Night Football. Don't let it happen again.
Exactly. And I mean, look, I like the Dolphins a lot. So, can you avoid the big hole? To me, can you get out of there 2-2?
Yeah.
And it's also weird that the Titans' schedule is like basically no division games until the end. That's another thing that, it's everything at the end when it comes to the AFC South, which I'm not a big fan of.
No, they played Jacksonville for the first time on December the 8th and then played Jacksonville again. It's another one of those situations where it goes Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Jacksonville again, just right in the same month, right after it, which I get probably has to happen at some point when you're dealing with divisional schedules, but I don't like it. They play Indy. Indy is their first divisional game, and that doesn't come until week 6. So,
yeah, and so and the week, the week 5 bye. I'm sorry, idle is gosh darn it! Don't erase that. Erase all
development on the show.
Erase all signs of that, please.
Well, you're making progress.
Oh God. It's you get hit over the head over and over again, and you finally just succumb. But yeah, that's not a great time.
No, it's not
for that. You'd rather, to me, I also don't want the late one. Like if I'm a team, I want it right in the middle. I thought Mike Herndon made a good point. I think it was Herndon on X last night about the fact that it's a bunch of noons, and certainly some of these games could be flexed, depending on what happens this season, but. All noons is kind of a good thing, and from a coaching perspective, you get that consistency. You get the one night game, and it's all noons, and then you have the one noon local out in L.A. against the Harpster. But for the most part, there's some consistency there, and it's a good situation in terms of other teams. They don't have a lot of teams on extra rest and stuff like that, so that's a good thing.
It should be a very interesting close to the year for the Titans. Going Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indy, Jacksonville, Houston. So you're talking 4 out of the last 5 are divisional opponents, and the one that's not a divisional opponent is what feels like a divisional opponent because they keep playing the Cincinnati Bengals every year, and they're doing it again this year at home. So that's a heck of a stretch there to end the season. And look, we'll see. Everybody's going to pick Houston to run away with the division, and I get it. But if the Titans can hang around and they're in contention late, the opportunity is going to be there for them to control, in some ways, their own destiny, given how many divisional opponents that they do play in the last part of the season there.
Yeah, no doubt. So it's just, can they get to an interesting December? Will it be an interesting December? That's really what Roger Goodell in the league. How many of these teams can be playing for something still in these December games? And I was about to say the last 2 years. That's not true at all. 2 years ago, they still could have won the division at the end. But last year was the first year in a while where it was basically just, okay, play out the string.
Yeah.
Can they get back to December games that matter?
They really, Joe, have basically one game where you worry a little bit about cold weather, right? Like that's the weird thing about this schedule. They play Buffalo and Detroit and Washington on the road. Buffalo is in the middle of October. So, I guess there's a chance it could be cold there, but, probably not. Shouldn't be too bad. Detroit's indoors anyway, but It's the week after that, and then Washington is the one that's on December 1st that has a chance to be cold. Other than that, if you're the Titans, you're not going to have to deal with cold weather unless it's, here in either the last game of the year or kind of in mid-December, early December, Jacksonville, Cincinnati. You shouldn't have to deal with too much cold weather out there.
Right, yeah.
I say that, and there will be one stretch here where it's 5 degrees and the Titans have to go play at Nissan Stadium.
Yeah, right. Like the Jags, Bengals, Texans at home could be, but that's your own. That's your own cold.
That's right.
Your own cold. It doesn't
Tennessee
hurt as
cold.
much. That's right. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, December 1 in Washington could be. But even, it's usually not terrible around then. So, yeah, they avoided the Chicago and Buffalo getting them before November is good, for sure.
Yes. And I did not bring up Chicago, but it will not be cold.
Yes,
I feel confident
you
saying
would think.
it will not be cold in Chicago on September the 8th.
You would hope.
Although I do remember, you remember when the Titans opened up their season in Denver, and I guess that was 2020.
Yeah.
And I think like the day that they played, it was like 90 degrees in Denver. The day either after it or before it, it was like 35.
Really?
It was really weird.
I don't
remember that
at all. But.
I remember that being like, huh? That happens in September in Denver? Okay.
Mile high, man.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen a mile up there, you know?
Yeah. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We're off and running on Robby and Rexrode. We'll take your initial thoughts on the Titans schedule that is out there. How does the schedule shake out? How do you think the Titans can handle those first 4 games before their bye week? And we'll do something that Joe Rexrode is going to force me to do that I don't love doing at this time of year. But we're going to do it anyway.
Good.
Coming up next, this is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. 615-1063 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans. The schedule released last night in the National Football League. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Michael in Madison says, I feel like we keep getting really early bye weeks over the last few years. And in my head, I've always felt like a later bye week is better. Kind of annoying. Like ideal, like week 8, week 7. Like the Titans are going to have to play, let's count them up, 13 in a row after the bye week this year. That's a long stretch of football.
After the idle or off week, yes. They will have to play a lot of games. Yeah, so was it last year? Maybe it's 2 years in a row. I don't know that it's been a bunch. But because I think they were off much deeper into the season in 2022, I'm pretty sure. I want to say it was wasn't it around the Green Bay game? The plane from Green Bay?
I believe that's correct. Let me go back and look.
I think the plane from Green Bay.
No, the 2022 team had the bye week in week 6.
Okay.
So let's see. What did they do last year? Let's see. It'll take me a minute to pull up. But if it's 3 years in a row, then maybe we're onto something here.
Yeah.
The bye week in 2023 for the Tennessee Titans was week 6 again? Week 7 after the London game.
Well, Michael's got a good feeling. Yeah, maybe the league is down on the Titans. I don't know. Conspiracy against the Titans.
Maybe so.
It was certainly, I think if you, middle, right around the middle, I think is perfect. But I think any coach would probably still pick the later one over the earlier one. Either way, if you don't have to have like double-digit games in a row, that
would be ideal.
Ideal, right?
That would be ideal. Hey, look, at some point, number one, we're definitely getting to 18 games. Like it's going to happen in the NFL where you have 18 regular season games.
Yep.
I hope when that happens that there's multiple bye weeks. That would be great.
Well, they used to give teams 2 weeks off. They've had that before. I want to say right around the early 90s, they tried that. I'll have to look that up. But that definitely happened briefly, and I think you're going to have to.
Kind of have to, right? If you're going to 18.
Yeah, and I would again. This is one of those things that if the players are going to continue to just let the owners, hey, we're going to keep adding games in this league that we care so much about your safety. If the players are going to keep signing up for that, then you have to have at least that built in.
Yeah,
right.
You would think,
and. Yeah, so I think that'll happen. So then what does that mean with the calendar? I think you just go ahead and start a week earlier. You don't have to start basically they've been kind of tied to the week after Labor Day, right? Yeah. It's okay. You take over everything else. You take over Christmas, take over Thursday. You're going to take over high school Fridays, take over whatever the hell you want. I mean, now you're not going to take over Labor Day weekend. I'd rather
just leave it the way it is, and then just adding on to the back end a little bit in a week or two into February.
Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't really want football pushing into March. I mean, look, I'll take football any time of year, but to me, it's an easier. If you already have college football on Labor Day weekend, why not have pro football?
Because I'm selfish and I love college football and I want them to leave it alone that first weekend.
You like that 1 week with all college, yeah. I mean, I get that. Look, as much as I love the NFL, I'd like the NFL to not be every moment of every day of my life.
I mean, it is good to step away every now and then.
Yeah,
it does seem beneficial.
They will have those decisions to make because you're right. 18's certainly coming.
Yep, no doubt about that. So, Joe Rexrode about to make me do something I don't like to do.
Yeah,
because this is May and a lot of things can change between now and then. And
you can change.
Yeah,
you can always change.
We will evolve.
Answers.
We will evolve. But our initial, right after the release of the schedule, gut reaction to the Titans, the record, what things are going to be this year, the way that this schedule shakes out here. We're going game by game, baby. You ready to do this? Joe Rexrode wants to go game by game here with the Titans schedule.
But I need a pen. Gosh darn it.
I have a pencil you can use. I've already filled out mine.
Okay, thanks.
That's what I'm here for.
I rarely use pencils. This is like going old school.
Let's begin with the Chicago Bears on the road, Joe Rexrode, on September the 8th. Caleb Williams, the era beginning for the Chicago Bears. Who you got winning that one, the Titans or the Bears?
So I'm going to go Titans. I'm going to go Titans with Denard Wilson's defense getting after a rookie. And, again, this is also the number one rush D in the NFL last year. It's a talented team, actually. If they get good quarterbacking, they could be pretty good here. But I'm going to go Titans spoiling the debut.
I'm going Titans. Bears fans, Bears writers are already going nuts about what they think they're going to be. I saw Mark Potash last night have them going 10-7 and sweeping the Packers. I'm like, well, they start by winning 1 against the Packers. They're not going to win against the Titans either. I'm going Titans in that game. Starting off season 1-0 in the Brian Callahan area.
Nick Keiser, are you doing this, Nick?
He's on the phone.
Okay.
Week 2, New York Jets at home. Aaron Rodgers, we think, will be quarterbacking by then. Who we got between the Titans and the Jets in the Titans home opener?
Home openers have not gone well.
They have not.
For the Titans. Actually, last year's home opener, they did win. Was last year's home opener the Chargers game with the bomb, the Traylon Burks? All right, well, again, I'm wrong.
They lost to the Giants before that.
Yeah, the
got
Giants
punked by the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals are the games.
There have been a lot of them that haven't gone very well.
Those are season openers. So maybe that's it. It's better to get a game under your belt than open at home. I think the Titans pull this off. I think the Titans go 2-0, and there's some early excitement about this team, and they find a way to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
I'm going to go with the New York Jets to win that game. If Rodgers is healthy, I think there is a talent advantage there for the Jets, so I will go with the Jets to win that one. You've got them at 2-0. I've got them at 1-1 to begin the season. And the next week, the Green Bay Packers come to town. Who you got in that one?
So the excitement stops with Jordan Love coming in here. Your beloved Packers are going to come in here and throw it around a little bit and hand the Titans their first L.
I will go with the Packers in that game as well. Although I am interested to see, Green Bay is really young last year. They put it together at the end of the year. I still look at their receiving room and say, a lot of those guys played well. Are there any difference makers in there? We'll see. But I'll go with Green Bay in that game. Miami.
Jayden Reed, baby.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Miami on Monday Night Football. Oh, my God, we can't give the Titans the sole possession of Monday Night Football, so let's give a doubleheader part of this. Who we got between the Dolphins and the Titans, who, by the way, Titans went down there on Monday Night Football last year, played a great game, great comeback, and won.
They did. It's like no one watched that, I think, in the NFL.
I guess not.
Will Levis seemed to be pretty good in that one, but I think the Dolphins get a little instant retribution on this one to drop the Titans at 2-2.
I'm going Dolphins as well, so that means I've got the Titans at a 1-3 start heading into the bye week. Coming out of the bye at home against the Colts. I'll start on this one. I got the Titans winning that game at home against presumably Anthony Richardson and the Colts to get to 2-3. Who you got?
Same thing. I think the Titans win that game. They get to 3-2, feeling pretty good. You know, you got through the opening stretch there, 2-2. You got your nice idle weekend. You beat your division rival Colts in the battle for third place, and you're 3-2.
On the road at Buffalo after that, I would say less scary Buffalo team than we've seen the last few years, but still a talented Buffalo team. I have the Titans losing that one to drop to 2-4. Joe Rexrode, who we got?
Yeah, it's hard to pick them in this one. I think that's going to be a tough one on the road. Buffalo, maybe not a top contender. We'll see, but still really good.
I've got the Lions big the next week against the Tennessee Titans. Joe Rexrode, are you going to pick the Titans to take down your beloved Detroit Lions?
They're not beloved, and they are pretty good, sadly. Although they're going to find a way to screw it up this year too. But they'll beat the Titans.
New England at home in, I forget what week we're in, but November the 3rd. I would assume Drake May still at quarterback at that time, unless he's been unseated by the mighty Joe Milton. I'll go with the Titans at home against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of breaks, I don't think, on the schedule. I think I would qualify this as one, although Drake May, by then, may be playing well. But I've got the Titans getting themselves to 4-4.
You got on the next week, you go from here in Tennessee out west to the L.A. Chargers, a 3:05 start on Fox. Who you got in that one?
Yeah, I'm going to go Chargers at home. I don't know that Harbaugh's going to work miracles, but it's still a pretty good team, and that's a tough trip for the Titans.
I'm going Titans. I think the Titans go on the road. They take down the Harbster and the Chargers, and they get after Joe Alt a little bit in that game.
Oh,
that's just my own musing about it. But Titans get after Joe Alt a little bit in that game. That's 2 wins in a row for the Titans on my book. Minnesota, I'll make it 3. I think the Titans go through a nice 3-game winning streak in the middle of the season there at Minnesota. Or, excuse me, at home against Minnesota. Who you got between the Titans and the Vikings?
Yeah, that's a win, too. And that's one of the – I mean, that stretch right there, obviously the Chargers tough, but New England and Minnesota back-to-back at home, you got to win those games. And so I've got them doing that. Now I've got the Titans at 5-5.
Then you start to get into the real meat of your divisional part of the schedule here to close out the rest of the regular season, beginning at Houston. Who do you have between the Titans and the Texans on November 24th?
I'm a believer in the Texans,
yep.
And I think the Texans get that one done.
I'm going to go with the Texans as well on the road. I mean, they got a chance to be really, really good as long as they stay healthy. The next week at Washington, I've got the Titans winning that game against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders.
As do I. So I think I've got the Titans. So I've got the Titans. They play these top 3 rookie QBs. In fact, they play 4 of the first rounders, including J.J. McCarthy, but the big 3 there, I got them beating all 3.
Yep, I've got them at 6-6 at this point in the season.
Same.
Against Washington. Jacksonville at home the next week. I'll go with the Titans in that matchup. Who do you got?
I'm going to go with the Titans also. And in this case, so we're talking about December games that matter. I mean, they are, at this point, absolutely in this thing at 7-6.
Yep, absolutely. We both got them at 7-6. Different paths to get there by the Jacksonville game. Cincinnati at home the next week. I assume Burrow's going to be healthy, which may be too much of an assumption at this point because that's been a problem for them lately. But I'll go, even though I think, Brian Callahan obviously the Titans will want to win that game for him, I'll go with the Bengals to win that game on the road at Nissan Stadium to drop the Titans to 7-7.
Same thing here. Lose that game, 7-7.
On the road at Indianapolis, I'm going Indy in that game, Joe. I think the Titans and the Colts will split this year. So the Titans win the one at home. They lose the one on the road in Indianapolis to drop to 7-8.
I've got them winning. I've got them sweeping the Colts.
Indy Ben.
Yes, Indy Ben, I hope you're listening. And that puts the Titans at 8-7 with 2 huge division games to end the season still in play to get into the postseason.
So at Jacksonville, who you got between the Titans and Duval down where the Milky Pool is?
The game that might drop them out or might make it where they need like 3 teams to tie and blah, 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 but they're not going to sweep the Jags. Jags win that one. Titans fall to 8-8.
I've got the Jags winning that one too, so the Titans splitting with the Colts and the Jags. So I've got the Titans at 7-9 at that point. The final game of the year, the Houston Texans at home. I got Houston winning that one too, with the Titans a final record of 7-10 on the season. Joe Rexrode, who you got between the Titans and the Texans?
Houston. Yeah, I think Houston very well could be playing for the 1 seed, but they're playing for something probably. It's possible that they aren't, that they're locked into whatever they are, and then that would change things. But I've got to go with the Texans at this point without that knowledge, and the Titans finish 8-9 and out of the playoffs.
So you've got them at 8-9. I've got them at 7-10. Our initial thoughts on the Titans' schedule and the way things lay out. Again, subject to change as we get closer to camp. We'll see what happens.
We will do this every day until the season, and we'll see how we change in that time.
We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. More coming up on the Titans next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. We'll have Diana Rossini from The Athletic coming up at 7 o'clock. Get into all things Titans and NFL with her. Charles Robinson from 8 to 8:30 today here on the program. Lots of high-level NFL talk that we'll have for you today here on the program. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, the NFL schedule released yesterday. Joe, people are mad at us with what we've just done with the Titans going through the schedule. I've got them at 7 and 10. You've got them at 8 and 9. Got somebody that says, "Come on, guys, sounds like you're predicting last year's Titans." Will from Brewston on the text line says, "Please elaborate on why the Texans will win." To which I'm trying to figure out, are we talking about like the games against the Titans or just in general?
Yeah. What do you mean? Please elaborate on what you want us to elaborate on, Will from Brewston.
Come on, Joe. No love for upgrades on both sides of the ball. People are very mad.
Sure.
Our initial.
We talk about this team every day. I mean, I'm sorry. What would be an appropriate prediction? 13 and 4. Yeah. Look, there's a lot we don't know. I mean, we're sitting here in May going through the schedule. The schedule came out, so we're picking games. Like I said, every day we'll do this, and eventually I may
go 17.
By the time we get to like mid-June, I might get up to 9 and 8,
yeah.
And by the time we get to late July, we might be sitting there at 10 and 7.
Could be.
This is just like daily exercise we're gonna do. Okay, don't worry about it. Yeah, look, I think there's some upgrades for sure. There's upgrade at corner, no doubt. Like right away in Chicago, I'm excited for that matchup.
Yeah,
those corners against those receivers. The Bears suddenly have good receivers. You know, it's a 2-year process, and they got the rookie QB. I mean, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Upgrade at receiver, absolutely. And if the offensive line is significantly better, then I think the Titans can push for a playoff spot. But look, in my little prediction here, I have them in the mix for a playoff spot. And of course, you can ask for more than that, but I think some people would say that's a bit optimistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the NFL media at large is going to pick them to suck, right? Like
yes.
they're going to pick them to be bad. Not that means, really anything in this discussion here. I'm just saying, like they're not going to be a very popular pick out there. I mean, look, I talked earlier, just kind of joked about like not liking picking games in May. I don't like picking games at any time. I do it. We all do it. But we all know if you've watched the NFL long enough, there will be games on this schedule that you don't think the Titans are going to win, that they find a way to win, and there will be games on this schedule that you think the Titans definitely are going to win that they find a way to lose. Like, that's how the NFL works, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, Washington will be shockingly good this
right.
year, and Buffalo will go 6-11. I mean, yeah, every year there are things like that for sure. You talk about NFL media at large, just quickly, my buddy Dave Burkett has been covering the Lions forever, and boy, does he deserve a Purple Heart. But, hey, they're actually decent now. I went through his game-by-game picks last night, and it's all like, 21-20 against the Packers and 20-17. But it was like 34-10 against the Titans. I'm like, there you go. People look at the Titans on the schedule. I mean, in Chicago, how many people are like, oh, man, that's
they love it.
Big break for Caleb. Build some confidence and just
it.
Roll over that team.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Will from Brewston says, against the Titans, please elaborate. Okay, well, I think the Houston Texans, are one of the best rosters in the NFL at this point. I mean, C.J. Stroud, we'll see. Can he pick up the momentum from last year? That's a big question. Their receiving core is really good. Their offensive line's solid. They added Danielle Hunter. They added Danico Autry. They added Azeez Al-Shaair. They added corners to Derek Stingley. Like, they're
loaded.
They are set up to be one of the best teams in the AFC. So that's pretty much my quick elaboration. I don't think you're going to find a lot of people, and I would say probably not even in this town, who are going to be picking the Titans certainly at Houston to win that game.
No. Well, and could the Titans find a way to sure, like it would not register
NFL.
On the shock list of the Titans find a way to beat the Texans once. I mean twice maybe it registers a little bit on the shock list, but like, it's the NFL. I'm going through the schedule last year, right? And this is the way things shake out. Before, if we would have read the schedule off in May last year, how many people would have had the Cincinnati Bengals losing to the Titans? Probably nobody.
27-3.
27-3.
By the way.
And, Burrow's hurt in that game, and he's playing through it, but that's the NFL, right? Like, there will be somebody that the Titans play that does not have their starting quarterback, right? There'll be somebody on this schedule that we're penciling in one way or the other that the Titans play that don't have their starting quarterback. And could the Titans find a way to lose that game? Yeah, we've seen that happen before too. It's just it's such an interesting league because I brought up the Texans example yesterday, going back to Will's point. Nobody picked the Texans to do anything last year. I think they were either second or third. Like Arizona, everybody expected to be awful last year and to be the first overall pick. Houston, depending on where you looked, was like second or third, right? And they find a way to get to the playoffs, and C.J. Stroud looks great, and the staff that DeMeco Ryans put together, all this other stuff. I mean, is it guaranteed that they just pick up where they left off this year? No, but I feel pretty good about it. Is it guaranteed that, New England, who everybody thinks is going to be bad this year, what if Drake May comes in there is just awesome immediately?
Gerard Mayo is the next great coach in the NFL. VFL, by the way.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Joe Milton, they
gives defense some good looks.
They start this strategy where they try to set up Hail Marys at their own 20, and they keep hitting them right before halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? We don't know what's going to happen.
Michael in Madison says, as long as history continues to repeat itself, the Texans will have an epic collapse to end the year, and the Colts will snatch victory from the jaws of defeat and win the division in Week 18. Maybe. I mean, the Colts haven't won the division.
Colts have won the division in a long time. Yeah.
It's been a decade.
Yeah.
I think 2014 is the last time they won.
Which might surprise people. Now, they've had some teams that have been the postseason, of course. But, yeah. I get that on the Texans. The Texans have definitely – they've had their collapses. I mean, think about that playoff game with Deshaun Watson against Kansas City a few years ago.
The one thing that was interesting about the schedule, because I do – we talked about this yesterday with Kuharski. I subscribe a little bit to the theory of maybe it takes this team some time to get going with the new pieces that you've got trying to mesh together, particularly on the offensive line. Like I realize they have Bill Callahan, and that's a big weapon, but you're still talking about a rookie left tackle, a right tackle in Petit Frere that's not played a ton at this point in his career. Like it could take a few weeks to get this thing where you want it to be in terms of the offensive line. So I guess what you hoped for if you're a Titans fan was maybe a little bit softer first part of the schedule. You have Chicago. I guess it depends on how you view them. And then there's the Jets, the Packers, and the Dolphins. That you could make an argument that's your toughest 3-game stretch of the season at that point, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, no, I think it is.
So that doesn't seem to be ideal for the way the Titans to begin the season.
No, look, they could be 0-4, and then they have to sit for a week.
Yeah,
and we could all be screaming and crying about how bad it is. But yeah,
Where's Vrabel?
Well, and the thing is, you get the Colts at home, which is going to be a critical game no matter what. Yep. They're 0-4, 4-0, whatever. When you get the Colts at home, it's a game you got to win, and then you go right out to that Buffalo-Detroit double whammy. I mean, before November, you could be in big trouble. It could be basically like, okay, well, what's the rest of the season going to be? So that's like you.
I mean, I've got them at 2-5 at that point.
Yeah, you have to start well. Yeah, that's the thing. What do I have? I have them at 3-4.
Yeah,
which is fine. If they're 3-4 there, then you do get you get the New England coming in. You get Minnesota coming in. Again, at Washington, you think that you got a shot in that one for sure. Jacksonville here. I mean, Jared kind of talked me into Jacksonville not being very good this year yesterday on his typical weekly loss on Jared versus Joe. But I don't know. I'm a little higher on them than him. But I'm not in love with Jacksonville this year.
No, for sure. I mean, it's the division part of this is really interesting because I had them splitting with Jacksonville, splitting with Indy, and then losing both to Houston. Like, what is Anthony Richardson? Because if Anthony Richardson is great, I mean, you could be in some trouble, right?
Yeah.
If he's not good, that could be the difference in you making the playoffs or not, right?
Could
be. If Anthony Richardson's not very good, and the Titans are able to win both games against Indy, I mean, that could be the difference in a playoff spot or not, right there.
Right, and of course, if Will Levis is great,
well,
or if he's
that
not.
too.
But the Levis Richardson
nice 9-6 rock fight between the Titans and Colts.
That's right. That's the thing. Like Lawrence, I think we've got a pretty good amount of information on him, and he's good. And Stroud is going to be can he avoid the sophomore slump? Does it just keep? Is he ascending? Is he going to be the next superstar, or is it kind of level off a little bit?
Yeah.
Richardson and Levis is just not completely blank slates, but pretty close to it, and hopefully we'll get to see them both play in both games. That's the thing. It's like, they're both heard from McEwen's picking 6 and 11. Good to see a pessimistic pick, actually, and he thinks that Levis is either going to get hurt or replaced for poor play. If it's replaced for poor play, then
they're in serious trouble.
Well, then all these mock drafts that we are mocking may start to look.
If he gets replaced for poor play in favor of Mason Rudolph, it's not very good.
Or Malik Willis.
Or Malik Willis, who I don't think will be on the team, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe he will.
Yeah.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Diana Rossini will join us coming up at 7 o'clock. Coming up next, it's time for the best and worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst.
You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. Believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle, it's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is that time of the week. Time for the best things, the worst things in sports. We'll take your best things, worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, as you always do, would you like to kick us off with your best and worst things in the world of sports?
Yes. And, this is another kind of combo, kind of things that go together. Look, we're talking about today, so I'm a hypocrite, okay? But the worst is, again, the freaking NFL making us sit here.
We just went through the whole schedule.
Well, I know.
I
know. So I'm using it for content. Don't get me wrong. However, I'm sitting here, I'm flipping to games last night, and it's like I'm wondering if these guys are sitting there, calling these games, the NHL, NBA. It's like, well, we lost some viewers because, the NFL released its freaking schedule tonight.
And by the way, my favorite part about all this, not to hijack your segment, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
My favorite part of all this is it's a schedule release, but it's a schedule release of opponents that you already know.
Right.
Like we know the opponents heading into it.
It's, hey, here's how you can book your hotels.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Right. It's not like, ooh, they're playing them.
Yeah.
You've known that for months.
Right.
So it's just – and so I'm starting with my worst. But my best is – and I have not gone through most of them. I'm going to do it today. And looking forward to it. I'm gonna contribute to a very important ranking at theathletic.com of the schedule release videos. I did like the Titans sequel. It's hard to capture the magic of the first time around, but
it is.
I don't blame them for doing what they did.
Sure.
But my best is definitely the Chargers having Harrison Butker in the kitchen. It's a pretty amazing
With the Sims
pivot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sims. So the Sims is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah.
Oh, it's that old.
I don't know if they still make them now or not, but yeah, that's when I first was introduced.
Is that
to the
around
Sims.
when you were playing Oregon Trail too?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
On the computer.
Okay. All right. There you go.
There were a lot of good ones. A lot of good schedule releases.
The Chiefs one seemed good. Like they were smashing Cincinnati, Skyline Chili and stuff like that. It was an interesting idea.
Incorrect take by them on that one, but whatever. That's fine.
Incorrect take.
Everybody loves Skyline Chili. If you don't, you're just a hater.
You have a problem if you don't. If I had it near me, I'd have a problem. I'd die. Anyway.
Nick Keyser, your best and worst things in the world of sports.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do the obvious Pekka, but I will talk about Zach LaRue because why not? Because this week we've just been doing it.
Pecorine?
Like what people may not know what you're talking about.
We have one other person to go, so we should be fine.
Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame for Pecorine.
Well, guess what? We just mentioned it, so there you go.
Yes.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate
You're welcome.
It. Anyway,
I'm going. Do Pekka.
Nope.
What does that mean?
He's got 3 different awards that we've talked about. We just hit on it. Anyway, I think it's important to keep in mind that while Jared thinks there are 3 prospects in Milwaukee, that is, I somewhat agree with that. Not wholeheartedly, but somewhat. But when a guy drops 9 points in the last 4 games, that's pretty noticeable. I mean, he's been awesome down there. And quite frankly, he's not the only one either. Tomasino had a great second chance last night. I was at the soccer game but saw the highlight really fast, but Zach looked really good, continues to look great. So good for him. And also, I don't know if y'all saw this as an honorable mention, but Jeffrey Simmons' reaction to the Titans schedule, he basically was like, one primetime game on week 5 and then our bye, and then he just put LOL. Yeah. So there you go.
Robby mentioned that earlier in the show. You weren't listening, but that's okay.
I know. I was working. I was on the phone. My worst in sports, Val Nichushkin. I just hope the guy's okay. That sucks. That's the third time he's been in the NHLPA at this point in his career. I believe it's the second in as many seasons. Not great whatsoever. We've heard rumors and scuttlebutt about what it could possibly be about. It might be pretty obvious, but still don't know. But just hope the guy's okay. They lost their leading scorer, and that definitely was a blow, and they were not the same after that. So good that they won last night, but we will see what that turns into.
My best in sports, going back to the schedule real quick, the way it shakes out for the Titans, one thing we did not mention on the opening game against Chicago, it's the Kevin Byard Revenge Tour game. Kevin Byard. I saw him tweet yesterday.
Good point.
And he just tweeted, all he did was tweet week 1 with the eyeball emoji. And I was like, because I'll be totally frank with you, for about 5 seconds I forgot where Kevin Byard was playing.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute, Kevin Byard. Oh, my God, he's with Chicago. You're playing the Titans. The Kevin Byard Revenge Tour game we could see. So Will Levis better be looking back there because Kevin Byard is going to be trying to jump a couple in that game. I have a feeling.
And the great thing for Byard is he doesn't have to tackle 22.
That's
so
true.
he gets the rematch with the Titans and doesn't have to tackle 22.
Does not have to tackle Derrick Henry. My worst thing, and I was not here last week when we did best and worst things in sports, so I'll just kind of tie this all together. With Sheldon Keefe being fired by Toronto, that is 19 NHL coaching changes that have taken place since the end of last season. That's over half the league. That's wild. 19 of 32 jobs
That's all that
have
league
been
does,
changed
man.
over. And they asked Pete DeBoer about this, who's the head coach of the Dallas Stars, and his analogy he gave was basically like, it's like going on a first date and getting married and divorced before the appetizers come out, is what he said, in terms of like, the modern athlete, all the focus is on trying to build relationships with them and get the best out of them and get to know them and find out what makes them tick. And the coaching turnover in the NHL is pretty wild. Like 19 out of 32 in the span of basically a year, that's pretty insane.
Well,
Which, by the way, Andrew Burnett's part of that.
right. And it's the same, 35 dudes who just keep changing jobs. I mean, it's also like speed dating. It's just musical chairs. Hey, you go over here, you go over here. Didn't DeBoer actually leave, though, his last job? He didn't get fired. Or am I wrong about that? Did he actually get fired?
He got fired in
He
Vegas.
did get fired by Vegas? What? For some reason, I thought he left Vegas.
He got fired by Vegas and then was picked up by Dallas. So
Just keep.
But, I mean, he's been the head coach of Jersey, San Jose, Vegas, and Dallas.
Yeah. And
He's a good coach.
I mean,
but-
Lavi will have.
Lavi, yeah.
He'll have a few more after this, right? Probably.
Oh, well.
Win a cup with the Rangers.
Maybe. We'll see.
He better win tonight, by the way.
Yeah. Got a text that says, best thing in sports is Rexrode schooling Stillman on Barkley not being a center.
Oh.
The worst thing, Stillman continuing to argue about it.
Are you serious?
That's what the text says.
Right. Oh,
I missed this. Did Stillman think that Charles Barkley played center?
Yeah, his whole dude. We have time for this?
Sure.
Like his whole premise, we were doing the right tackle, left tackle thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his whole premise is like, body types don't work. Sometimes it can still work out. So maybe Latham could work out his left, but he doesn't have the body type of left tackle. He's like, just like Barkley. I mean, Barkley, 6'4", but he's in there banging against Patrick Ewing and Shaq. I'm like, Jared, he did not play the 5. Charles Barkley was a face-up 4 or 3.
Yeah.
They always had a 5 with Barkley. But he's like, no, I saw him. He fouled Shaq. He was in there. I'm like, no, Jared, he did not ever play the 5. I promise you. In today's NBA, Charles Barkley might be in some lineups where a super small lineup where he plays the 5, like Draymond does with the Warriors.
Yeah.
Back then, no. Never. Not one time.
Yeah.
Ever. Ever. So thank you for bringing that up.
Got a lot of votes on the text line. Best thing in sports, PGA Championship this week, Valhalla. Anytime there's a major golf tournament, I'm here for it.
I will be
Yeah.
there.
Rexrode's here for it too.
You'll be there?
Keezer's going tomorrow.
I will be there.
Nice. Okay.
Say hi to my boy Scotty Scheffler. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your best things and worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Diana Rossini from The Athletic. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans and the National Football League with her. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. It is the day after NFL schedule release day. We've gone through a lot of the schedules to this point. And to help us talk more about the Titans and the NFL as a whole, we welcome in our friend Diana Rossini from The Athletic on our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Diana, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Catching up on all those video release, the team video release, schedule release videos from last night. I probably watched 30 of them, so
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. I kind of gave everyone 10 seconds. It was like 10 seconds. If you can keep me engaged, I'll keep watching. Otherwise, I got other stuff to do. But I thought so. Obviously, I thought the Titans they did a good job. They were put in a tough position. I was stressed for them. You know, how do you top what they did last year? That was hands down the best video I think I've ever seen in terms of a schedule release. So credit for them to at least. I like the idea of just go back to the well. You know, this is what worked. Let's adjust it. Play the hits. Let's not get too crazy. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I know that whole team. They take a lot of pride in their work there and what they did last year and this year. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I mean, it's hard to capture the magic the first time, but I don't blame him at all for doing that. But so Diana, Josh Kendall and I have to rank like for to write in The Athletic tomorrow these, and I know you and Robert, you guys went through it, right? Like I'm going to watch that whole video, and I may steal some of your ideas, but
please,
just real fast, is there anything out there better than the Chargers one?
So I personally loved the Patriots, and maybe because when you watch the video of our reaction, you'll understand why. So we went with the teams that we assumed were going to be great right off the top. Like, soon as 8 o'clock hit, we had our producer pull up. I was like, all right, I want to see Chargers. Who else did we immediately go to? We knew that we thought that the Panthers would do something because they've done stuff in the past that's been creative. But we basically went to the teams that we know. The Ravens were like, all right, we heard some stuff about them. We heard some stuff about the Dolphins. So then I said, you know who I actually want to see is the Patriots. Everything's so different there now. You know, when you have to figure in the past, Belichick probably wasn't leading the way with the social media team in terms of creativity. So I just wanted to see if the new regime had some guts here to say, let's do something now. Let's be different. And they were so good. So they basically they spoofed Good Will Hunting.
Oh,
you know, obviously Julian Edelman and Gronk were essentially Ben Affleck. And Matt Damon in it, and
wow.
It was really, they had Ernie Adams in there. It was really funny, and you know, Duran Mayo was a lead character in it. They just did a really good job. They had fun with it. It was funny. I think just the fact that I went into it unexpected, like thinking there's no way the Patriots could ever have fun. Well, they did.
It's good to nice,
good
refreshing.
I'm looking forward to that one.
So, Diana, it seems like just outwardly from the national kind of expectation on the Titans, they don't expect the Titans to be very good. It's been an offseason of a lot of change from Snead coming in to Ridley, Tyler Boyd they signed. There's been a lot of turnover with this Titans roster. What do you make of what the Titans have done to this point in the offseason, and how do you view the roster they have heading into this year?
I know that schedule tells you exactly the way the league feels about the Titans at this point, right? I just think there's just too many question marks to really have the answers right now to be like, okay, guys, I predict that the Titans are going to win this division. Everything goes back to Will. And those are the conversations I have with GMs all across the league, even head coaches, you know, over at the league, at the owners' meetings. Just anytime I'm trying to get a pulse on how everyone feels about the Titans, it's always the same thing. Is Will going to be the guy? I think there was enough seen. There were some great moments he had last year where I think fans can probably get really excited about it and believe that this is it. I know in the building, they obviously have tons of confidence. But there's still a few holes, right? You have on the defensive side of the ball. There's, you know, at safety. Yeah, I have some question marks on the offensive line. Definitely better, definitely improved, but the right side, there's still holes there that need to be plugged. So collectively, the roster has definitely improved. I was just having a conversation yesterday, actually, with someone in the league about the Titans of, I keep forgetting how many good players are on this team now, and it's been so long since this roster has had really great players. And so just that alone, I think, has got to give fans some hope here that they can definitely improve this year. It's just, is it going to all come together? Like you said, there's been so much turnover, not just from the roster standpoint, but obviously on the coaching side of all of this. So to have them find the answers and get it right out of the gate is hard. And knowing what the schedule looks like for them, I think that's probably where I have some concern. They come out of the gate against some really difficult teams, that have a little bit more experience under their belt in terms of what they've been dealing with. That's really probably where I'm a little hesitant. But, I look at the defense too, Joe, like big picture. The good news, at least for some of the veteran guys there, they're not going to be learning a new defense. A lot of the stuff they're going to be doing comes from that Baltimore Dean Pease way of doing things. So it's not going to be a complicated change and adjustment for them. So I think they have that working. And obviously, Coach Callahan's got a vision. We got the Cincinnati Bengals wannabes right now, which I think is awesome, and the way it should be built. And we'll see if they'll be able to basically replicate that.
So, Dinah, you mentioned draft night. You tweeted draft night right after they picked Latham that Bill Callahan, that Latham was his favorite offensive lineman. We've been tossing this hypothetical around. Well, first of all, what did you hear about that going in? And then do you believe that the Titans would have taken Latham even if – because obviously we were talking Joe Alt in this town. Then Harbaugh takes Joe Alt. Do you believe they still would have taken Latham if Alt was sitting there as well?
Yeah, I still think Latham was going to be the guy just because I had been told that Coach really, really liked him as a player. He liked his size. He liked the mechanics, all those things that he looks for. And I think it's pretty fair to say at this point he is the best offensive line coach in football, and he had his eye on him. Now, there were others in the draft room, or we'll just call it the war room, scouts who obviously thought Alt was a really good player too. So I had a couple conversations with people in Tennessee the day before the draft. Actually, even the morning of, and the vibe was starting to change towards Latham. So that's where I knew Coach Callahan was getting his way. where they were smart in the room, going, all right, maybe the man that knows everything about this position, and this is the position that we're zeroing in on, we should let his voice sort of have all the power here. So obviously that was a really good call by them. But I still think if they went Alt, they would have been fine with it. Obviously knowing that he's that type of player. And they kept telling me, too, leading into the draft, they were never going to get cute with that pick anyways, because there was tons of chatter, if you recall, around that time about them maybe trading out, doing all these different things, and they really they really were targeting improving that offensive line, and they obviously did.
Dana, on the Will Levis front, you mentioned it. I mean, there were some moments last year where he looked really good, some other moments where you look at the talent around him and the offensive line, and he just had no chance. Hopkins, Ridley, Boyd, that trio that the Titans now have at wide receiver, how much with that in the kind of the background here do you think we're going to find out about what Will Levis actually is this season?
Look, it's always going to be about quarterback improvement. That's always just a big part of what's going to happen this year, not just for the Titans, but obviously for other teams in the division that they're going to face. And look, I think the fact that they're supplying him with skillful players, at least they've supplied him, and like I mentioned, have improved the offensive line. They're definitely building this up for him to have success, which I think highlights the reasoning why he also needs to take this next step. This is a lot of pressure on Will, right? Because I do think last year there were situations he was put in that, out of his control, and sometimes in kind of out of the team's control with this is what we got. And perhaps it wasn't the best it could be. So the fact that they are really focused on building this offense around him to make him better, I do think it comes with that side of pressure, but also is going to give him a path to improve and get better and be comfortable with Brian Callahan and this offense. And just watching his own growth is going to be important, I think, in terms of his leadership in that role, because we talk about the question marks. One of the question marks is he going to be that guy? I was listening to Tom Brady recently on the Pivot talk about what it takes to be a great quarterback. And he immediately talked about endearing yourself to your teammates and making it about them and never making it about you. And maybe fans hear that and go, it's all a bunch of fluff. It's not, because I've been around the great quarterbacks, and there's so much truth to that. And I'm watching Will now, I believe, sort of follow that formula, and that's credit to him, as he's done a really good job, I think, of endearing himself to his teammates, but also to that entire building. I hear nothing but great things about Will Levis.
Talking to Diana Rossini of The Athletic, and we were texting Diana about the Titans, the quarterback. That's what strikes me about their schedule. I feel like everything on their schedule, every quarterback is interesting in some way. Most of them are really good,
yes.
But they've got 4 of those first-rounders. You got May, Daniels, McCarthy, but then, of course, you start with Caleb Williams. First of all, just how does that strike you? But also, how anticipate – I was trying to figure out, like, this Caleb Williams debut for the Bears against the Titans opening week, most anticipated QB debut since who?
I don't know. I mean, the thing with Chicago is, I think I've been having tons of debates over the last few days on different shows about, who's going to have the better season, who's built to have more success this year. Is it going to be Jalen? Is it Caleb? I think for Chicago, this is the best roster built around a quarterback brought in that I've seen since I've covered the game, which we'll say 15 years now. What they've done in Chicago to help Caleb have success has been tremendous. And look, some of it is because they haven't been great, so they've been put in positions to draft high and be able to pick and build around these players. But also, it's Ryan Poles and Kevin Warner there having a vision for what they want this team to look like, and parting ways with players and moving on from guys that maybe some GMs and teams would stick with. But for them, they are very focused on a certain way that they want this team to look. And the Jalen Daniels thing, to me, there was so much talk, Joe, about how good of a quarterback he is. I even spoke to a coach who thought that Jalen was better than Caleb. Like the day before the draft. I'm like, wait, what? Like, because I wasn't really getting a lot of that. He just really impressed so many different coaches, which is why we saw so many different teams calling the Commanders, even though the Commanders weren't really answering their phone in terms of trying to get up to try to get him, knowing that Chicago was locked in on Caleb. But look, I think from everything I'm hearing in Chicago in terms of the Caleb experience so far, again, it's hard to find anyone that's going to knock the new guy just yet, because they haven't really had enough time to do that. It's all just real easy, light stuff. As Nate Taylor once shared with me, Steve Spagnuolo put it best, OTAs, it's like guys in their pajamas, right? Like, you're not seeing much in terms of what on the field, but they're learning, right? All of this is just that dipping their toe in the playbook and trying to learn as much as they can. So look, from the advantage of a Will Levis, who, yes, he's going to be learning a new offense here, but just having that experience in some crucial high pressure moments last year, to have that over some of these rookie quarterbacks who have never even stepped foot on an NFL field yet, you're always going to lean towards the veteran. But yeah, that's going to be a challenge coming out of the gate. Look, I don't think it's an easy automatic W for the Titans because it's Caleb Williams and the Bears. I think the Bears roster's really, really good. So, look, a lot of challenges here against some young players, but I do think that the Titans have had that going for them. They have a core of veterans that are really good. By the way, Joe, I apologize. I sound like I'm talking underwater. I'm not in the bathtub. The allergies in New Jersey are so horrendous. I'm like hearing myself.
We get
talk.
it. We know.
So I am so sorry for those who are driving to work and want to have a nice listening experience. Next time I will sound better. I apologize.
You sound great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my regular voice is grating to – I mean, we all know that. You're fine.
It's horrendous. It is horrendous. But yeah, the Drake May thing, look, there's going to be patience practice with a lot of these teams. The Vikings are one of those. I think everyone is so quick to say JJ is going to start. I don't get the feeling out of Minnesota that this is JJ's team right now. I think you're bringing Sam Darnold in on a 1-year, $10 million deal because you want him to start the season. Also, you're not sure what the quarterback situation is going to be at that point once they lost Kirk Cousins, and I know that they did not want to take any risks, knowing that they wanted Drake May, and obviously that did not work out for Minnesota. But I think we're going to see some teams like Chicago where Caleb is the starter, and others where I think we're going to have to probably wait through the summer to see if they officially name their rookies the starters.
Well, Diana, we always appreciate your perspective. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us, and we will talk to you soon.
Of course. I can't wait, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep,
Thanks,
Diana
Diana
Rossini from The Athletic, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We'll react to what she had to say. Take your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Do you believe they still would have taken Latham if Alt was sitting there as well?
Yeah, I still think Latham was going to be the guy just because I had been told that coach really, really liked him as a player. He liked his size. He liked the mechanics, all those things that he looks for. And I think it's pretty fair to say at this point he is the best offensive line coach in football, and he had his eye on him. Now, there were others in the draft room, or we'll just call it the war room, scouts who obviously thought Alt was a really good player too. So I had a couple conversations with people in Tennessee the day before the draft. Actually, you know what? Even the morning of, and the vibe was starting to change towards Latham. So that's where I knew Coach Callahan was getting his way. where they were smart in the room, going, all right, maybe the man that knows everything about this position, and this is the position that we're zeroing in on, we should let his voice sort of have all the power here. So obviously that was a really good call by them. But I still think if they went Alt, they would have been fine with it.
That's Diana Rossini with us in the last segment, saying she thinks that if Alt was still there, J.C. Latham still would have been the pick for the Tennessee Titans. What do you think of that?
Well, Charles Robinson thinks the same thing.
Yep.
So that was very interesting. Also, you've got the rant today, which is good. Just want to take a little minute here.
Okay. A mini Rex rant?
Well, the other day I heard, and I want to attack Ian Safar, because I feel like we just need to attack all of our fellow employees here. He was actually sort of agreeing with Stilley. Like, I expect this crap out of Stilley. Like, Stilley actually thought, like, the Titans took a draft pick and then immediately said, Diana, say that we really liked him. Like, that's the organization. Like, now, what's our priority? You know, we just drafted J.C. Latham. Let's text Diana Rossini and ask her to tweet that Bill Callahan really loved J.C. Latham. Think about how stupid that is.
Like, it's Amy's first order of business.
Yeah. Hold on, guys.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, it's just.
Now, Diana, I need you to tweet.
Well, so then
get to tweeting.
And then you got that. So Ian's like agreeing with Jared on this the other day. I'm like, guys, she obviously heard this information before the draft. Reporters hear information before the draft all the time, and usually, especially if there's a specific person tied to it, the team doesn't want them to say it then.
Right.
And it's not relevant also if they don't end up picking him. I got Big Joe thinking that they held a press conference and Bill Callahan's like, he's my favorite guy. Like, oh, yeah, whatever. These coaches say whatever. The information was gathered before the freaking draft. This is not difficult. All right, sorry.
That was a good mini Rex rant. I like that.
Thank you.
So if you're a Titans fan, what's your reaction to hearing that maybe Latham, even if Alt was there, was their guy? Because, look, we talked about this heading into the draft. Just because, like, all the mock drafts loved Joe Alt as, like, the top offensive lineman and had a lot of them had them going to the Titans, doesn't necessarily mean the Titans felt the same way, right? Like, I'm not saying they didn't like Joe Alt, but maybe they did like Latham better. Like,
well, he did. I mean, like, it's clear that he did.
Yes.
It was clear that and there's no question that and that's what was interesting there, what Diana said, and we kind of argued about this with Charles last week, right? Because I had heard some people liked Alt better. She just said there were some scouts I think maybe would have stood on the table for Alt had they been in the situation, and that is where, look, go back to like the story of Derrick Henry, right? Blake Bedingfield saying, guys, please, and basically being ignored, and then Malarkey kind of being like, well, he does have a healthy debate. But I must say, if you're picking an offensive lineman, why wouldn't Bill Callahan be?
You would think it'd be heavily influenced
as prominent a voice. Like, why is I understand that, like, Brian Callahan's a head coach. I understand Rand Carthon's a GM, and there's scouting and there's all this information. But if he has access to the same information you do, and he's like, that's the guy, wouldn't he have the most powerful voice?
You would think so. Now, look, I totally hear and I agree with, like, there were some people that immediately, when Latham was picked, was like, I don't want Bill Callahan making picks. I want the general manager making picks. But, like, if you're going offensive line, I'm with you. Like,
if it's Jason Hodling, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not Jason Hodling.
It's right, and it's also like if you're committed to going offensive line, which it sounds like they were, then I don't know why you wouldn't want to have Bill Callahan's voice a pretty prominent role in that.
Yeah, I don't want Bill Callahan picking my safety.
No,
for sure.
Yeah.
Don't want him picking the receiver.
Yeah.
But if that guy is as valued and as valuable as I think he's demonstrated he is, then I'm putting more stock in what he's saying in terms of this is what I can do with this guy. And look, they've already told us about all the detail he went into when he talked about what he's looking for in an offensive line, right? Yeah. Like they're blown away by it. So I would guess that he probably has some information and insight that no scout could have.
You would think so.
We'll see how it works out.
Well, more on the Titans coming up next. There's a question that Rexrode threw out there that I want to answer coming up next. We'll get into that as well. 615-737-1025. Tune in to 1025 The Game today as Vanderbilt baseball takes on Kentucky with pregame at 5:15, first pitch at 5:30. Vanderbilt baseball brought to you by Smoky Mountain Tops, your countertop experts. Visit SmokyMountainTops.com. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. You can purchase your tickets now for the Music City Grand Prix at the National Superspeedway, Friday, September 13th through Sunday, September 15th at MusicCityGP.com. As the racing station, 102.5 The Game has a special offer that is for a limited time. Use promo code GAME for a 20% discount now through June the 16th. Once again, that's promo code GAME. Also, tune in for the Indy 500 race on 93.3 Classic Hits on Sunday, May 16th. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. People think Stilly's going to go off with this one. Could be our fault.
Stilly's filling out his grid. Oh, my God! He can't. He's like, I need more grid!
The Titans love J.C. Latham.
I'm talking about you.
Load.
He's a right tackle.
Wait. Play that again. What'd you just say?
I'm talking about you.
Load.
I don't know what that is.
What was the word there at the end? What? You don't know?
I believe it's load, like workload.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Oh, boy. Well, we got Beavis and Butthead running the controls today.
He's really proud of this new drop folder.
That's not one I made.
Okay.
Who made that one?
I don't know.
I need to know.
Whoever was your first
Ryan Porth
one.
written all over it.
I was going to say.
It's got Ryan Porth written all over it.
Seriously, that is a very poor drop.
All
yeah.
right.
I'm gonna read an interaction. I think I may have been a little mean to Dean Johnson on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. But this is let's just use logic here. This is what he said. He says, "Poor Joe. If he doesn't think teams don't use national – wait, I think that's too many negatives. If he doesn't think teams use national reporters, that's what you meant to say, Dan. You said if he doesn't think teams don't use, which means they don't.
I felt really bad, and now I'm going to crush him again.
Well, I mean, I just noticed a terrible grammatical error. If he doesn't think teams use national reporters who can't pronounce Titans correctly to Pollyanna their picks, he's delusional.
Pollyanna.
And I responded to this. Poor Dan Johnson. If you think a team, quote, used a reporter, all caps, in the 5 seconds after a draft pick was made, regular, non-capitalized now, you're beyond delusional. Yes, stuff like that happens with teams and reporters. You know what else happens? Reporters talk to teams before the draft. And I said, please get a clue. I thought that part was a little bit rough.
A little excessive?
He said she can't pronounce the team correctly. Sad. She does say Titans like Michelle.
She does have a little bit of Michelle to it.
Look, there's an East Coast thing.
Apparently.
There is. And so you're going to get a little bit more Titans than Titans, which is such a subtle thing too, right? Like if you really think about it, no one says Titans.
No.
But it's just Titans.
It's just the Titans.
Titans.
Yeah.
Titans.
Yeah.
And then they say Titans.
Yeah.
So it's instead of right?
It's pretty funny.
Basically?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's use logic here, folks. I mean, reporters have this kind of information all the time. So I understand picks made and you see some reporter, you're like, oh, they're doing the bidding of the Titans. And you know what? There's a lot of stuff that goes out with newsbreakers and teams and agents and all that stuff. I mean, obviously she got this information. She just came on our airwaves and talked about how she talked to the Titans before the draft. Was she lying? Now, the Titans hear our shows, right? I mean, apparently the Titans make moves based on our programs from what I've heard.
Yeah, apparently so.
So is she just coming out here now and just making up conversations? I mean, come on.
On the quarterback front, you brought up the question. We know that the Chicago Bears opening their season, the Caleb Williams era, against the Tennessee Titans. Most anticipated quarterback debuts since when? I'll throw a couple at you. Is the Caleb Williams debut, in your mind, more anticipated than Joe Burrow? Is it more anticipated than Trevor Lawrence?
I wrote today, actually, in The Athletic, that it is the most anticipated debut since Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer started their takeover of the NFL. I think that's what it is.
That was a wild one.
So that's 3 years ago. I think it's that.
Okay.
I mean, Trevor Lawrence was clear number one. Even like Joe Burrow, there was excitement, but he was such a 1 year burst to the top, right?
Yeah.
Remember that was Tua was the number one pick.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like, oh no, actually Joe Burrow's the number one pick.
Right.
So they were both very anticipated, but I think Trevor Lawrence was undisputed
for
and
years.
I think honestly thought of more highly and talked about in a little bit different way than even Tua and Joe Burrow.
I agree. Yeah.
So I think it's that. I think it's 3 years since that. And it was also interesting hearing Diana talk about, and we heard this some, that a team that she talked to liked Jaden Daniels more than Caleb Williams. And there's some teams weren't completely in love with Caleb Williams.
I'm really fascinated to see how that goes. I mean, the kid's got all the
fascinated and hoping against hope.
Well,
Sucks.
I'm hoping that he's bad. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to that. But I mean, you could see it. He's got a lot of ability. I'm very interested to see how it goes. And some of it is where you get drafted, right? I mean, that's a dysfunctional place where he's at. Now they put together a good roster. Like, I think it's a little bit overstated to say like how good it is. Like, they've got good players. I don't know how many great players they've got, but they've got some good players. The receiving core is what's really interesting because you drafted a Dunze. You've got obviously Keenan Allen coming in, and can he stay healthy at this stage? And what's he got left of the tank? And then DJ Moore. That's a pretty good trio right now. That we talk about the Titans and the additions they've made. Well, right away you're going to be Snead, Awuzie, and McCreary tested pretty well right off the hop with that trio that you're seeing in Chicago. So it's going to be we both have the Titans beating Chicago in Week 1, but it is going to be a heck of a test right off the start, specifically for that group. Yeah. Trying to contain those three.
Like the Titans 3 is, to me, way more known commodities. And,
I would agree.
All of them have been very good, and there's no real concern in terms of a specific injury thing or whatever. But if Keenan Allen's okay and has good years left, and then if Odunze hits, that's a good receiving core. Yeah. Like, that's a team that – because I think their defense is good.
It's okay.
Yeah, they were number 1 rush defense last year, whatever that's worth. They still
I saw Aaron Jones run for about 140 on him in the first game of the year. Like, they're okay.
Yeah. Well, they got better from that.
Yeah, they did. They improved.
But just if you have that, if he's protected and those receivers are what they hope they are, and then of course, is the rookie QB going to be immediately really good? Right. I don't know. If so, they're one of the most fascinating teams in the league. So I think it's pretty cool that the Titans get open that way. It's probably not bad to have that first game, to have them as your first game,
I
right?
agree.
You go right in and you hope that you can just befuddle the rookie right away.
I agree. Now, that also, like, I do think, and again, this is why playing, paper schedule in May sometimes is tough to do. But, like, if you lose that game, if you lose the game to the Chicago, all of a sudden you're staring down the barrel of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, Jordan Love and the Packers, Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and the Dolphins. For your first 4 right there. Like, you could start 0-4.
Yeah, like you said, Green Bay it's not superstar, but there are a lot of good receivers. Those corners immediately are tested. Yeah. Which, hey, it's the most improved and addressed part of your team, so you hope it holds up. But then also, okay, is there pass rush to help them out and things like that?
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, man. So I was pretty excited to see the Bear. I got a big Bears fan. See, I wasn't going to call you because I'm so, I don't know. Sports, in my opinion, is just it's anemic right now, man. It's so boring. I know we've hit a really bad lull season for me, especially when the Preds got eliminated. But you did say Titans, and it triggered me because that's what Michelle Knezovic used to do all the time. That was something that she couldn't say Titans. She said Titans. And I can't. And I used to have a lady, and I had season tickets for 20 years, man. And there was a lady that sat behind me and screamed that the entire game, "Go Titans!" And she bought the tickets. I can't believe she didn't know that. That's not how you say it. It's incredible. Somebody spends so much money and say it wrong all that time. So yeah, a lot of people make that mistake, but Michelle was one that kind of popped back up and triggered me.
Yep, thanks for the call, Adam. Michelle catching strays right now on the program.
Yeah, we gave her crap. We got a lot of mileage out of that on the show, really.
Yes, we did.
And her saying Titans. But again, Adam, it's look, it's just different regions of the country, different dialects.
That must be what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's in fact, I think there's actually someone else in media here in TV who also says Titans.
Titans?
Yes.
I look for it now. Every time I hear it, I'm like, yep. I know where that is. That's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, good. Is Michelle happy about the Kentucky coach yet? Has she talked herself into that'll be amazing?
I don't know. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. The Rob Rant coming up next. That's 2 days in a row. Two Rob rants in a row.
Take it
for you.
over, baby.
What do you think about that?
I love it.
We'll have Charles Robinson coming up at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
I need you to take your seat. The fasten seatbelt sign is on.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to the bathroom for a second. I'll be right back, okay?
I understand what you want to do. Unfortunately, I'm going to need you to observe the fasten seatbelt sign. That'd be much appreciated.
Right, it's just I read on the internet that it's not against the law for me to go to the bathroom while the fasten seatbelt sign is on, so.
Seatbelt sign is on.
But is it against the law, though?
The light is on.
It's that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode.
What horrible movie is that from?
That's Key and Peele. It's not a movie.
All right.
Okay. I've heard of Key and Peele.
Yeah. All right.
Like when you heard that interaction,
No,
did you
I
know what
clue.
it was?
I had no clue. But I trust Keith.
I want to know how that relates to the Rob Rant.
Well, it is about airplanes, and I have some things to say.
I see
on the
what
airline
we're
front.
doing here. See, you guys are playing chess, and I'm playing checkers.
That's how it sometimes goes.
Why do you think I ask you what you're going to rant about sometimes, Joe?
I know. That's why I don't tell you.
It's a lot more fun whenever you do. I'm just saying.
I think it's more fun when you don't. Just see what you can come up with. All right, so the schedule comes out yesterday. Yesterday morning, while we were on the air, a good buddy of mine approached me with an idea about a weekend in Wisconsin. So there was some scuttlebutt floating around. The Packers open up their season in Brazil. So we knew that already. We knew they were going down to Brazil. Odds were they were going to have a home game the next week, right? Coming back from Brazil, be at home the next week. There was some scuttlebutt yesterday morning that would be a home game against the Colts, which is what it turned out to be. So yesterday morning while we were doing the show, a buddy texted me and said, you know what? Wisconsin plays Alabama at Camp Randall that same weekend in Madison, Wisconsin, and then we could go to the Packers game at Lambeau on that Sunday. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. So we got all that planned out yesterday, tickets and flights and all this stuff. I got my flight. It was easy. Got an up and back trip for $225 total, which is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Very proud of myself for that. I'm looking at like flights yesterday after I had booked mine just to see make sure that I got the best deal here. And I'm looking on Southwest. And like I said, I got a nonstop flight from Nashville to Milwaukee for like $120 or whatever it was. And then the grand total ended up being $225 there and back. So it's pretty good. Nonstop both ways. I'm looking down the list. And there is a flight from Nashville with a layover in Denver that gets to Milwaukee for $128. All these are either $128, $129, or $219. This first one I saw left Nashville at 1:15, finally got to Milwaukee at 12:10 in the morning the next day. This other one left at 8 in the morning, got to Milwaukee at 6:30 that night after the layover in Denver. And this was my favorite one. The final one left Nashville at 9:15 p.m. on that Friday night and got to Milwaukee at 9:40 the next morning after the overnight in Denver for the layover. Who does this? Like, does anybody do this? Does anybody look at the flight and say, you know what? I know you can drive from Nashville to Milwaukee in roughly 8 hours, 8 hours, 30 minutes. But why wouldn't I want to get on a plane, have a 7-hour layover or whatever it is in Denver, leave at 9:15 at night, and then get to Milwaukee by 9:40 the next morning? Like, I'm confused as to why this is even offered, much less why it's offered at prices that are more expensive than my nonstop flight. The 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. flight from Nashville to Milwaukee is $219. It's like almost $100 more than I paid for the nonstop. Like, I am curious to know, does anybody actually take these flights? Like, does anybody look at it and say, you know what? That layover in Denver where I'm going from Nashville to Milwaukee sounds great. Let's do that. Even though I can drive to Milwaukee quicker than it would take me to get there on a plane. Let's do that.
It's a great question.
Like, I wondered, like, how often does this happen where, like, we all have layovers from time to time, right? Like, there's some times where you just can't get a direct flight, and it happens. But does anybody actively choose we'll just stop in Denver for 8 hours, and it'll take us 12 hours to get from Nashville to Milwaukee? It was wild to me it's even a choice.
Like a murderer who's trying to I don't know.
I couldn't for the life of me figure it out.
Yeah, like why would those even be offered?
I don't know.
Like especially the 9 p.m., 9 a.m. one.
Yeah.
Why is that offered?
Would you guys like to leave Nashville at 9:15 at night and get to Milwaukee at 9:40 the next morning? No. That sounds awful. Why would anybody want to do that?
For more money.
For more money.
Yeah, why is that? That's a good question. I mean, that's a good question for someone who maybe works at an airline. Why would a combination like that even be available?
I don't
like
know.
if someone accidentally clicked on that, like just think of the horror.
So you're telling me I'm going
to that situation.
And look, we all like some of my favorite flights are like, hey, I'm trying to get to, from Nashville to Orlando, but I've got a layover in Houston, or I'm trying to get from Nashville to Detroit, and I've got a layover in Tampa. It's like, well, so you're going south to go north. Those are always, my favorite parts of this. But this is even different. Like, I understand sometimes that you've got to have connecting flights, but I can't believe that anybody would ever actively choose this.
It does. I think I've talked about this trip. It does bring it to mind because it was a special situation, but again, you're still trying to find the fastest way to somewhere. So, covered Draymond and the Spartans playing on an aircraft carrier against North Carolina in San Diego Harbor, and then had to get to a Michigan State, Iowa, Kirk Cousins game in Iowa City, a noon game the next day, okay? Red eye, San Diego to Charlotte, jump on a flight Charlotte to Chicago, jump on a flight Chicago to Moline, the Quad Cities, get in a car, make it midway second quarter, wash hair in sink in O'Hare, which is disgusting, but I had to wash my hair. But, so that's like an idiotic, who would ever combine those things, right? But, it was the fastest way I could figure out to get somewhere. I don't understand, this you're talking about, what could that possibly be a solution for?
Yeah, I don't, some people are saying, some people like to take the connecting flight because usually it's cheaper, which I guess I understand.
Sure.
This was more expensive.
More expensive
than the direct
and
flight.
an absolutely just hellish.
Just absolutely terrible.
Overnight in Denver.
Yeah. That sounds Scott from Shelbyville says, so you can take a side trip to the dispensary. That would be something people would do. Maybe so.
There you go.
Well, we got some time to kill here in Denver.
I smoke weed constantly.
Trey says, my wife did an overnight flight and went right into work the next day, so she didn't have to take a day off when I was stationed in California. I mean, maybe there are reasons people do this.
But if you could go, what if you went the day before and then went to sleep in your bed? You could also and then go to work. I don't know, man.
Alex said, had our admin assistant book a flight for us from Minneapolis to Nashville that included a 3-hour layover in Denver.
Oh.
Meanwhile, there was a flight that left Minneapolis 5 minutes later and got to Nashville 4 hours early.
Dude.
Sometimes all it takes is just paying attention.
You're triggering me, and I'm not naming any names, but I have before I took over booking, I've had a flight booked for me that was barely cheaper than a direct flight. Because that's just basically if you have someone administratively book travel for you, that's just it's the rule. Okay, so this one's cheaper, do that. It's a 3-hour layover.
Yeah.
This one is $10 more to get a direct flight.
Well, there's obviously a reason for it. They're not just doing this for the sake of doing it. So my problem is not even really with the airline. It's are there people that are trying to get from Nashville to Milwaukee that will actively choose to do this?
Yeah. Like B-Van says, when the flight sells out, those become the only options. Yeah, but don't even make that an option. Just sorry, you don't get to go to Milwaukee. We don't want to put you through this.
Did you say B-Van?
What's that?
Did you say B-Van?
Who would it be?
Bevan?
Well, it could be. I say B-Van. How
Let us know if it's B-Van or Bevan.
Bevan, B-Van, or Beavis.
That's my story of the day. I was looking at that yesterday and could not believe that somebody would actively choose to do that.
That's a great
I'll just drive.
I've seen some weird ones, but that overnight one, I don't
wild.
think I've seen that one.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and all things NFL. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, talking all things NFL. Charles, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, gents. How you doing this morning?
We're awesome. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Charles, it's scheduled the day after schedule release day. Joe made me go through every game of the Titans schedule next year and pick a game. Is that a violation? How do we feel?
Look, I'm completely willing to participate in this. I think it's the most overdone thing that the NFL. There's parts of schedule day that I just hate. Like all these people are texting me things yesterday. You know, I don't understand half of them because I can't watch everything every team does to roll out. You know, so I'm getting like screenshots of the Chargers dissing this guy or that guy.
Oh, Harrison Butker in the kitchen. That's the best thing of the whole day.
That was pretty funny. But I mean, like, it's just, you know, the whole what they did the Pop-Tarts thread, which some people didn't get the jokes. I thought some of them were. I'm curious what they meant by some of them. Like, it's an interesting day to say the least, but it's taken on a whole life of its own now. It's mid-May. They got to figure something out to make this, stretch as long as we possibly can. So I don't know what else they can do. I would not be surprised, though, honestly, if they don't turn this into more of a dragged-out kind of situation where they try to do it over. I would not be surprised if they try to do it over multiple days at some point rather than a one-day dump.
Well, they kind of did, though. They kind of did. And they threw out a Monday night, and they threw out a Sunday night, right? I mean, they kind of teased.
Yeah.
You're talking even more.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like an even more built-up rollout than they do now. Because now they do the whole, well, we're going to leak some games through the partners. And actually the most fascinating thing about this release was it was on an internal calendar at the NFL. It was supposed to happen last Thursday, as in like a week ago. And as we got closer, everybody at all the networks, they were like, "What's going on?" They're like, "How come we don't have the schedule?" Like all of a sudden, everybody that had programming set up, they were scrambling. Like literally, all the networks were scrambling because they're like, "We don't have there's no word that this is actually coming on the date when we were supposed to expect it." And so there was a lot of speculation that was going on behind the scenes at ESPN and Amazon and NBC about is this because the NFL Network, they fired so many people, so they're going to have issues with their own rollout or whatever? No, it turns out they were just nailing down more money from Netflix, and that's what delayed the whole thing. And so now we know what is a Christmas Day game worth. $75 million. What are two Christmas Day games worth? $150 million. That's a heck of a lot of money for Christmas Day games. So it was fascinating to me that they dragged out negotiations on those Christmas Day games as late as they possibly could to squeeze as much money out of Netflix as they ultimately got. But overall, I'm like a curmudgeon about scheduled day release. I hate to say it. I just get too in the weeds on the whole thing. So
yep, I'm with you for the most part. So Charles, we do know that the Chicago Bears and the Titans
were they? Saw that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I saw these as complaining. They're like, "Oh, this is the team. We got to kick this." I hope the Titans beat the crap out of people this year because instantly I see all this blowback from Chicago about really all this Caleb Williams. We're celebrating the Caleb Williams hype, and now we got to start off with the Titans. I'm like, what a bunch of Jags, man! I tweeted out yesterday. I was like, I said, man, look at the Patriots. Look at all the quarterbacks the Patriots face this year. Like you could argue, other than Levis, every single quarterback they face in 2024 could be considered a top 15 quarterback. And then somebody in Twitter just starts ripping on Levis, and I'm like, we're really just is that it? We're just going to judge somebody on a really small time frame behind a rough offensive line. Like you're just out on this guy like he's trash, like he's And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I just hope the Titans. I hope there's just like a revenge tour this year where they're sick of everybody, ripping on Levis. They're sick of everybody just, trashing this team. And it's not just because I do this spot. I'm tired of people complaining about, Will Levis and the Titans not being, worthy of opening your season against Caleb Williams. Oh my God, poor Caleb Williams. Now he's got to face the Titans.
So wait, so it's like, oh, it's too easy for Caleb. We want a real team.
They want they don't think it's marquee enough, right?
Gotcha,
they don't think someone's like, okay, all right, whatever. Like
making him play a USFL game to start. God,
yeah, it's trash. So, but I, if you're a Titans fan, I mean, that's an interest to me. I love the quarterback matchups. That's what I end up looking at when the schedule rolls out and kind of when. I looked at the 6 first-round quarterbacks and I'm like, all right, one of these guys, we know a couple of them, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, are definitely, they're supposed to be week 1 starters. When we look at, Drake, Bo Nix too. So those are three that I'm like, all right, out of the gate, these guys should be on the field week 1. But then you look at like Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, you're like, all right, if they don't start, where on the schedule can you realistically see them starting? And then, like with Penix and Atlanta, I'm kind of like, all right, well, let's look at the last game of the season. I think they play the Panthers the last game of the season. Atlanta does, and if you figure if they're out of it, either in a positive way, hey, there's nothing to play for in Week 18. We got it locked up. Penix could see the field in Week 18 the way that Mahomes did. His rookie season with the Chiefs. He played the last game of the season, and then if they're out of it and there's nothing to play for, they're just out of the playoffs. I think Penix could see the field the last game of the season too. So I like to look at the quarterback matchups and just kind of see, who's playing what and where.
To your point on the Titans, I was saying this earlier, Charles, our buddy Burkett. I read his Lions predictions, and every game is like 21-20, 23-20, 27. It's like Lions 40, Titans 3, or whatever. I'm like, geez, people think they are just absolute. It wasn't that, but it was like 34-10 or something. I was like, geez, they just think they're total trash.
Man, that is such I just don't get it. Like, I don't know why the disconnect. Why I seem to be higher on. I like the coaching staff. I like the moves that they made, like to revamp the coaching staff. I like the draft. I like I like Levis's tools. Like, I don't know. I'm just like, what is going on? How come I feel so disconnected from everyone else when it comes to this team? And I'm like, I just don't get why people they just seem to dislike Levis so much. I'm like, the guy's got great tools. What did he do to upset you last year?
Like, don't ever do mayo in a TikTok. Yeah, I mean, that's right.
God,
like, I don't know.
Just get over the stupid stuff. Like, it's we're past it already. Like, just move on. Like, appreciate what he brings to the table. You should hope he plays really well. I hope every quarterback in the league plays well. I don't want to see trash quarterbacks in the league, right? So, I don't know. It's pretty stupid. One thing about Caleb Williams was interesting though. He plays the top 4 quarterbacks from the 2023 draft in the first 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
He plays Levis, he plays Bryce, he plays Anthony Richardson and Stroud for the first 5 games of the season. I think it's interesting. You got like this guy who's supposed to be the generational quarterback, and he's going to measure up against the top 4 quarterbacks from the previous season. That's kind of fun.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, Charles, but of the other 31 teams, maybe even a rough guess from conversations, how many of those other 31 think that highly of him? Would you suppose?
Think that highly of who?
Of Caleb Williams. Like, he's clearly the guy. Because we had Diana Rossini on earlier. She said she talked to a team who actually liked Daniels better than him. I've heard a little bit of that. Of the other 31, how many do you think? And I know some teams evaluated quarterbacks way harder than others, but still, just had that opinion of him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. This would be like a total guess, but, I'd probably say 3 out of every 4, and again, we're talking about different people in organizations too. Like, there's some people in organizations that hate them, others that love them. Like, it's, he had, like, I'll give you an example, like one organization that I think does like him. They had a meeting at the combine and he got asked, he was asked, how come you're sitting out things? Like what's going on? What are you doing? And Caleb answered, well, something along the lines of like, my team and I thought, this wasn't, this just wasn't the right time to do these things or whatever. And a very prominent person in the meeting on that particular team was like, yeah, your team is not what you just said. The team is the team that drafts you. I was like, I don't know if they like him anymore after I heard how this interview went. So, things like that you have to take with a grain of salt. So we'll find out fast on Caleb. I guess that's what I'm kind of saying is that, their lineup, they do play a lot of talented teams. And I like the fact that you're going to see a lot of the recently drafted quarterback talent all running up against each other pretty quickly in the season.
Charles, what do you think of the Jared Goff contract? 4 years, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. What do you think of the deal, and what do you think of the window now for the Lions to try to punch their ticket to a Super Bowl?
To me, it wasn't surprising. I think I was probably surprised by people who are like, wow, that's a ton of money. I'm like, what did you expect? This is what, especially for a guy that, takes you to the NFC title game, who, if a couple of decisions go a different way, or Josh Reynolds catches a pass, or Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't fumble, they could have taken him to the Super Bowl last year. And the way that city has galvanized around him, like anytime he's anywhere in Detroit, they're chanting his name. It's crazy. And like he chose, like, he got to Detroit. He was like, I want to be here. That's exactly what Detroit fans wanted to hear. Then he performed on the field, and now you're a $50 million quarterback. If you have above average ability and, you can take a team, you can actually win games, you can be part of the solution in a playoff scenario, you're going to be a $50 million quarterback, which is why I think I'll be shocked if Jordan Love isn't a $50 million quarterback. Tua isn't a $50 million quarterback. Trevor Lawrence isn't a $50 million quarterback. Dak could be a $60 million quarterback by the time he gets to free agency next year. This is just the new normal. Like, it's the second tier quarterbacks, I think, are now, the basement is 35. Like, if you're a starter who's not considered just a bridge 1 year answer, if you're signing a 4-year deal, but you're considered like mid-level, you're in the 40s. It's just where the position's ultimately going. And I think Goff was a reflection of that. And I think the Lions too, that was part of a really, really good offseason for them. You extend Brad Holmes, the GM. You extend Dan Campbell, the head coach. Penei Sewell gets his extension. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff. They're getting all their building blocks in place long term. And I think if you're a Lions fan, that's the only thing you can hope for. The ownership spends and spends and spends to make sure everybody remains locked up. And Goff's a great story, by the way, to me, for the NFL. I think when you see a team kick a player to the curb, and that's really what Sean McVay did with Goff. It's great to me when you see that player then go and flourish elsewhere. And for a team in a city that really, let's be honest, I mean, prior to it coming together for him there, they were a joke, right? And now it's weirdly enough, it seems like a lot of people around the league, a lot of fans like around the league like the Lions because there's not a reason to hate them. So, good story for Detroit.
He is a great story. The Lions will blow it and ruin everyone's lives, but he is a great story. There's no doubt.
They will until they don't, right? I mean, that's just what you kind of have to. I was covering that game, the NFC title game with Dan Wetzel. We're sitting there, and my editor, who Al Toby, he was on.
Three Michigan guys in a press box.
3 Michigan guys in a press box.
I mean, Wetzel's an adopted Michigan guy.
Adopted Michigan. Well, he lives in Detroit, Metro Detroit. And so we're sitting there, and he obviously knows the Lions' history and everything. And so Al texts us. It's like in the third quarter, and he says, "Hey, get me your Lions going to the Super Bowl angles right now."
Good job, Al. Now we know.
Right? The second he did it, and so immediately there's a reversal, and they go for it on fourth. They don't get it. And Wetzel turns to me and he goes, "They're going to lose." As soon as they went for it on fourth and it didn't happen. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, knock it off. Just get over it. And then Gibbs, the next time they have the ball, Gibbs fumbles. And he turns to me, he's like, it's over. It's over right now.
The game is over.
And yeah, it's ridiculous.
Freaking Al. It would have been fine, but Al screwed it up. All right, good to know. I got to have to text him after the show.
Whatever you do, don't say anything around his wife because she was really upset they lost. And he was like, don't tell her.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, Makisha is a diehard. Jeez, man.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you brought up Goff though, because I want to throw this take at you, Charles. So I claim that if you put Jared Goff in this offense of the Tennessee Titans the past years with this freaking offensive line, he would be an unpaid dude looking for a job right now. And that if Ryan Tannehill would have been in his place with the Lions, they could have gone as far as they did. I mean, I think they're very close in quality as QBs. Am I crazy? Is that insane? And why the heck doesn't Tannehill have a job?
Okay, the only thing I would say about that is Goff did perform at an MVP level for the Rams. Like he was, and he did take the Rams to a Super Bowl.
Fair.
Like he did go toe to toe with Mahomes and the Chiefs in probably the wildest Monday Night Football game we've ever seen in history. That one where it was like, in the
54-51, yeah.
Yeah, it was insanity. So I mean, like he has played at a level where I think people forget. There was a time where we were staring at Jared Goff going, "Oh my God, like this guy could be a 50 touchdown quarterback." Under Sean McVay with the pieces that they had around him. I don't know that Tannehill's he's had great seasons. There's no question about that. And especially when he's been healthy and you've kind of seen the athletic versatility that he brings to the table. I think there's like this parallel universe where Tannehill, if he never gets hurt, is one of these quarterbacks that we look at and we go, wow, like this guy, the athleticism he brought to the table, rounded into form as a passer, is potentially puts together like a Hall of Fame type of career if he plays 15 years healthy and in an organization that, maybe one organization that surrounds him with talent. Obviously that didn't happen. I don't know last year, where Tannehill is at this point in his career. Remember, Goff's still pretty young. I do think that getting out from under McVay forced him to grow a little bit as a player, kind of getting into a position where he had a coach turn his back on him. Like he really did walk into Detroit with a chip on his shoulder. I think he's really upset about what happened. And I think that did change him a little bit in terms of like his play style on the field. He looked like a less timid player to me. So I think he actually got better last year. I do agree with you though. If you flip flop the situations and you put him behind an offensive line where he's getting hammered, big difference. He definitely doesn't get that extension. We're probably talking about, I think we've talked about this in the past, where it's like Baker Mayfield between year 3 and year 4 for the Browns. He won a playoff game in year 3. It looks like he's signing a contract extension. He's going to be the Browns guy for the next, 5-6 years. Year 4, he's awful, objectively. There's injuries around
and
him.
Hurt.
And hurt. And then what happens? He's gone. And so, I think you put Goff in Tennessee, there's a chance that, he's probably getting cut or he's in free agency, rather than getting a contract extension. The surrounding players, I don't think it's a mystery. Like if you surround a quarterback with a bunch of first round offensive line talent, you give them depth in the backfield, like quarterbacks are still a function of a lot of the players around him. So I think Goff, there's a percentage of his game that definitely is similar to that. You love Tannehill, by the way. Joe, you bring up more Tannehill conversations.
He loves him some Ryan Tannehill.
Any person.
There's not a Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins lover in the country more than Joe Rexrode.
But listen, it's just because people. There's so many people here like, God, he sucked. Get him out of here. Awful. And it's like, man, there just aren't many guys who would have had a chance here. So it's really just about. It's just
not with the way that line. Come on.
Yeah,
there's no way. The way the line deteriorated, there's no way. You can't. And I'm not like a huge. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge Tannehill guy. Like I think when we had that argument about what was Deshaun Watson's last good year in the NFL, where he got the Pro Bowl nod, and we kind of were like, well, what about Tannehill? See, like I think people forget that Tannehill played at that level, especially outside of Tennessee. Forget that he played at that level, for the Titans. And again, when he was healthy. He brought a versatility to the game, a level of athleticism that it's celebrated in so many other quarterbacks, but he just never had the long runway where it was like, here's 6, 7, 8 seasons where he's surrounded by talent, a front office keeps in place and he stays healthy and on the field, had he had that, I think, probably a lot of people talk about him in a different way. So,
Charles, on the Anthony Richardson front, obviously, I mean, he got in early last year. He suffers the injury, and it's in some ways kind of a lost season for him. Based on what you've heard about him this offseason and heading into year 2, what are the expectations around him? Where do we think Anthony Richardson is right now in terms of, as you're trying to forecast this division moving forward? I mean, it's a heck of a division when it comes to the quarterbacks. Levis, Richardson, Stroud, Lawrence. It's very intriguing.
Yeah, it is. And the thing to me is just the projection on him is so crazy. Like, people are talking about, like, maybe he's like a dark horse MVP candidate in year 2. And I'm like, we haven't even seen this guy. He's like on the field, like basically 4 games. And this is and he got hurt. He was hurt like constantly in that limited window. And he's no different to me than he was coming into last season in terms of this severe need for reps and to round out as a passer. I do think that what he showcased in the limited time that he played last year was, he didn't seem, he seemed definitive in terms of some of the decisions he was making. It wasn't like you watched him, you're like, oh my God, he's coming unraveled. This was a huge mistake. Instead, it was like, wow, instantly you see the upside. You see the arm, you see his ability to manipulate, defenses with his athleticism, ability to move off script and create plays out of structure. But it was such a small snapshot. Like, what bothers me about everyone looking at him and just going, this is going to be this, ascent into greatness as long as he can stay on the field, is let's see him put some stuff on tape and then defensive coordinators start to screw with him, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's see when he runs into a Brian Flores type who's like, guess what? I'm going to show you so many defensive looks pre and post snap. You're going to be losing your mind. And so is your OC as he prepares for this. And so is Shane Steichen as he prepares for our game plan, because you're not going to have any clue what you're looking at for the vast majority of the game. Like, let's see him get put into a situation where teams understand the things he does worst, and then they push him into that repeatedly. I just think as much success, I guess surprising success, at least to me, that the Colts had last year after his injury, the Colts could also be 4-13 this year, and I wouldn't be shocked if Richardson has a really rough season. We still don't know what he is. So I think the talent was there. It was fun to watch. I get it. I remember a GM told me, like, I was asking him, I don't remember if it was before, it was like during the draft process, or if it was after. I think it might even been in the preseason. He said something to me like, Richardson's going to have like the most fun 5 for 17 games you've ever seen in your life. Like, it was just, he was just like, that's how much fun he is to watch, and that's what he brings to the table. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of struggles for the Colts to deal with. We let's wait. And by the way, and I'm not saying he's going to roll back, and I'm not saying there are going to be problems, but, let's see with C.J. Stroud, too. I mean, there's just this presumption that Stroud showed us what he showed us in year 1, and now he's going to be on this, like, Hall of Fame trajectory. And I think back to, like, Justin Herbert. Like, Justin Herbert came out of the gate smoking, not the way Stroud did, granted, best passing season ever, from a rookie. But let's see some injuries around him. Let's see, again, as teams kind of figure out what he does or doesn't do, let's see what Stephon Diggs being injected into that wide receiver room and into that offense do, from the standpoint of, and maybe he won't year 1, but he's going to be a player that will challenge the coaches to get him the ball more. He will challenge C.J. Stroud to make him a priority. Let's see how Stroud handles that. So these early, looks at quarterbacks now, we assume that they're headed for greatness. And then, once the wheels start falling off, things change pretty quickly. It wasn't that long ago that, like, the Falcons brass had convinced Arthur Blank that Desmond Ridder was going to be their quarterback for like the next 10 years. Right. And now not only is he not on the roster, they have two completely different guys sitting there. So.
Charles, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we'll talk to you next week.
real quick before we go, we got to say this, right? Because Joe brought it up to me when we were texting earlier. So last year you needed, let's see, CBS, Fox, NBC, ABC, ESPN, NFL Network, Peacock, ESPN Plus, Amazon Prime to watch all the NFL games.
Correct.
Now you add Netflix to that. Good luck. Good luck finding. This is how, by the way, this is how they reach Roger Goodell. I can't remember what year it was. He was the owners meeting. He stood up in front of the owners. He said, my goal before I'm out of here as commissioner, we're going to be making $25 billion a year in revenue, and we're going to get there. And the owners were like, by the time you get out, you're going to be here till 2050. It just seemed like such an unrealistic. But you know what changed? The gambling stuff changed. All the ancillary money they could make, with the gambling partnerships. And then this, I think the streaming, these are the two avenues that I would not be surprised that they continue to dice this up as much as they possibly can to push, to extract as much money out of whatever network wants it. Tubi at some point is going to be like, hey, we'll give you $150 million per game on Christmas Day, and they'll be like, we're going to have games on Tubi.
Yeah.
So,
it's wild the way this is all going down. Charles, great stuff, man. Thanks for taking time to be with us.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports, our guest on Robby and Rexrode, joins us every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. We'll react to what Charles had to say coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp on the road. Pre-game at 5:50, first pitch at 6:05. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. I have tickets to give away to see Bill Burr tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to see Bill Burr at Bridgestone Arena coming up tomorrow night.
Looking forward to it. I saw him last time he was there, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to miss that dude next time he's around. Yeah. So I'm not.
There you go.
He's pretty funny. But he will offend everyone.
Yes,
he will offend you in some way. I promise you. Hang in there. A lot of talk on the text line. I want to address a couple things. Okay. First of all, had some discourse about washing my hair in a sink in O'Hare Airport. I did tweet out, I think I tweeted out a picture of the sink. Everybody's different. You know, like my wife, like I think she washes her hair like once a week or something like that. If I do not wash my hair, and I'm sorry to have this conversation for you, I know for you, you're like, yeah, shut up, dude. But if I don't wash my hair, it had been more than 24 hours. And if I don't wash my hair at least once every 24 hours, it's very bad. I can't even function. It's kind of ugly, though. Thank you. And also, I think I've told this story, but we had to wake up super early the day before and go out like 6 a.m. to the aircraft carrier and take all of our electronics because President Obama was coming in for the game. So you had to leave your computer there all day. Seriously, to be like inspected and scanned. And so like I had been up for like a long time and I had to wash my hair in the sink. I'm also getting a lot of strays here on the Tannehill thing. Look, Mariota wasn't good enough.
I was wondering why you wore your
him.
Tannehill jersey today.
Hey, Mariota wasn't good enough, and as that went on, realized I was wrong, and that's fine. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, if you think that Tannehill, he totally botched the Cincinnati game, and I think you're right that he has lost some of the fastball. But like I will argue until I'm blue in the face, and not because there's any sort of personal, whatever. He's fine, but he's a good quarterback. And it's just my biggest beef with this whole thing is just quarterback's the most important thing. We focus on the quarterbacks. It's all about the quarterbacks. Teams are constantly looking for the quarterbacks. But I don't think people put enough stock in, like, if the conditions are bad, I don't give a crap who he is. And if the conditions are good, it can make a lot of things better. And there's just so many quarterback careers in this league that could have gone completely 180 from what they were in different situations, good and bad. And I'll never stop believing that.
Well, and look, I think the Tannehill part of this, I think you're being disingenuous if you don't recognize that he is at worst the second best quarterback in Titans history. That's what he is. He's the second best quarterback in Titans history. McNair is one. He is two. I had somebody yelling at me about Warren Moon yesterday.
He's Oilers.
Yeah, he's Oilers. We're just talking Titans.
Yeah, Warren Moon is the best in the franchise history, but not Titans history.
Correct. So he's clear. The hope is, and I hope this. Most Titans fans, all Titans fans hope this. The hope is that Will Levis eventually blows Ryan Tannehill out of the water with the way that he plays here, and that he becomes the best quarterback in Titans history, right? I mean, that's the hope, that you continue to find people moving forward that are better. That way you do look back at some point on the history of Titans quarterbacks and say, yeah, Tannehill's nice. He's nice. But right now, Tannehill, I said it yesterday, you can make a pretty strong argument that the fourth-round pick to go get him was maybe the best move that John Robinson made.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I actually feel better about, in this reverse situation conversation, I actually feel better about Goff completely being ineffective here with this offense. He really would have been, guys, because he can't move. The thing about Goff is, like, he is very much dependent on protection, just like Kirk Cousins. Yep. More than Tannehill. Both of them more than Tannehill on protection. It would have been terrible for him. He would not have $212 million that he would have just signed for. He'd maybe be looking for a job. I can't say for sure Tannehill goes to that Lions team and he takes them where they did. Goff was really good. And then, Charles brings up a fair point. Goff was the number one pick. Goff did have success with the Rams. I think a lot of it, I believed, it was like McVay and that scheme, and they're ahead of everybody.
So they clearly felt like they needed another quarterback.
They felt that way.
Yeah.
I wonder what they think now. I mean, I think this is also a thing that we struggle with, and I do too sometimes. The idea that at 26, 28, someone can improve.
Yeah.
Someone can figure something out that's not working or be extra motivated, do one-arm push-ups for a week, and improve. And I think that is definitely part of the Goff story.
I think that's definitely part of the Goff story. It was interesting to get Charles's thoughts, too, on, like, the Levis situation here. First off, Charles seems like a big Titans fan this year. Rooting for the Titans.
He's such a homer.
Well.
He's such a Texans hater and Titans lover.
Rooting for the Titans to do very well. Another part of the discourse that has bothered me a little bit this offseason, I don't spend a ton of time worrying about it because it is what it is, but like the idea of like, well, Will Levis, he's not very good. He's shown that he can't be very good. We've barely seen him play. But, oh, yeah, Anthony Richardson's going to be great. It's like, well, Anthony Richardson has shown less than Will Levis has at this point in his career. Not that Anthony Richardson can't be great, because I think he can.
Well, he showed less in college, too.
Exactly. So that is one part of the offseason discourse that has baffled me a little bit. Anthony Richardson's back this year. Watch out for the Colts.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, how do we know what that's going to mean?
Yeah. He's one of the most interesting guys in the league this year, to me. He really is. I think they both are. But I think that also traces back to, so combine time, it's like, whatever. Levis took a bag of peanuts or whatever the hell people are talking about. And Richardson was the most athletic quarterback ever tested in Indy.
In history of combine.
So the combine last year was, oh, my God, Anthony Richardson, and Levis. What's going on with him? Which, again, how much of that was misinformation intentionally? I know some people close to him think there was some of that, and that happens. But it is. If you still think there's nothing that's been demonstrated by Will Levis, or that any of the stuff talked about with the personality of Mayo is still relevant now, then you just aren't paying attention.
Join Cromwell Media along with local athletes and musicians at Hermitage Golf Course on June the 20th for the 615 Open. Make a difference while supporting Souls for Souls. Every $20 raised goes to a new pair of shoes for a local child experiencing homelessness. Sign up to play or to sponsor at 615open.com. We'll have more on the Titans coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nashville's best deal of the week is Bavarian Beer House, conveniently located at Opry Mills Mall. Enjoy beer, food, music, and fun at Nashville's only authentic German beer hall, where it's Oktoberfest every single day. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to Bavarian Beer House while supplies last. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Thursday morning. The schedule is out. We went through the schedule game by game earlier, which, as Rexrode pointed out, we will attempt to do every day from here to the season beginning.
Yep, right now 8-9. You're 7-10, but what will we be on Friday the 17th? We'll find out tomorrow.
Who knows?
I think we need to spend a whole hour on it tomorrow, though.
I think so. More schedule talk. In all seriousness, looking at the schedule, what are some areas of it that stand out to you? The one thing that really stood out to me when I looked at it yesterday was the opening part of it. First off, the bye weeks in Week 5. Jeffrey Simmons, not a big fan of that, tweeted about that yesterday. I can understand NFL players not loving having a Week 5 bye. But we've talked about the idea of maybe this group taking some time to gel together and what that could mean. It's a pretty difficult first 4 games when you just kind of weigh the whole scale of it. You're at Chicago to start, home against New York, the Jets, and Green Bay, and then on the road Monday Night Football in Miami. Those are 3 pretty good teams, we think. And then one team that I don't really know what they're going to be in Chicago. It really just kind of depends on how ready Caleb Williams is at this point. But I thought that's a pretty difficult start for them, given some of the other options that were available on the schedule.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, that is the toughest stretch of the beyond the 2 game in October.
Buffalo, Detroit.
Yeah, the 2 game in October. Road, Buffalo, Detroit back-to-back. The opening it's a critical part of the schedule. And, of course, the closing is all the division games, which I don't like. I really don't like that. You mentioned it earlier. What is it? So Jacksonville there's 2 games. We have seen before, like, game against a division opponent, 1 game in between, and then another, which is
stupid.
Trash.
Yeah.
But – you're talking about Houston both times, from November 24th on, Houston both times, Jacksonville both times, and Indy once.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of division games in the last
goofy.
couple weeks.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is interesting, by the way, that the schedule maker made it Houston at Titans at the end. Does that mean that the schedule maker thinks more of the Titans than because a lot of times you see these, obviously at the last week of the season is always division rivals, which is great. But usually it kind of gets put together like the 2 teams you might expect to be at the top of the division.
Maybe.
Is the NFL telling us something now?
I mean,
Does the NFL respect the Titans more than NFL media?
Last year it was Titans-Jags here in Nashville.
And that made sense.
That made sense at the time.
They were the top 2 the year before.
Yeah.
The year before it was Titans-Jags also, when the Titans were the clear favorites and they had a 4-game lead at Thanksgiving. But anyway, it worked out that way. So now it's Texans-Titans. Interesting.
Is there going to be a year where they don't play the Bengals? I mean, I know this is not breaking news yesterday that we knew they were playing the Bengals, but they played them a lot recently.
They have.
Played them a whole lot.
They've played them a lot recently, and in the last 3 games that they've played the Bengals, Brian Callahan's offense against Mike Vrabel's defense averaged 14 points a game.
Not very good.
Now, of course, that includes the 3 last year with Burrow able to throw the ball about 8 yards downfield. But still. Yeah, it's become a little bit of a rivalry, and it's a drivable one.
I think when you look at the schedule, the window of opportunity for this team maybe to put together some wins, kind of to me starts in New England, right? New England at the Chargers, home against Minnesota. That's a 3-game stretch in the middle of the year that I think is going to be really important in terms of, like, if you're the Titans, those are winnable games on paper that you need to find a way to take advantage of. Like, it would be great to get to the last 5 games. We mentioned it earlier. Of your last 5 games, 4 of them are in the division. If you can get to that point where you're still alive and have a chance to, in some ways, kind of control your destiny down the stretch there, that would be great. But you got to get there first if you're the Titans.
Right. I mean, that stretch, you have to win you have to win the 2 home games. New England, Minnesota, I mean, I think those are probably –
they shouldn't be very good.
The two easiest games on the schedule, right? And they're 2 out of 3 weeks at home. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. And then
Washington, depending on how you view them too.
Yeah, that's true. And then shortly after that, you're at Washington. You got Jacksonville at home. You got a chance to make some hay there. in November and early December to give yourself a relevant December. I had them relevant in December in my go-around. You basically did too, though, right? You just came up a game short of me. Indy Ben has a reasonable take, by the way.
Okay.
He says, Levis also rubbed you the wrong way with his reported cockiness and decision-making on the field. Many compared him to Wentz, whereas Richardson's ceiling was much higher if he fell in the right scenario. Yeah, I mean, I remember the talk. And, again, ceiling was absolutely, is still the talk with Richardson. And I agree it's high. I absolutely agree it's high.
For sure. I think ceiling with Levis is pretty high.
I do too.
Maybe not as high as Richardson, but I think it's pretty high.
The Wentz, do you remember the Wentz comparisons? I don't necessarily remember that. But
well, I think the Wentz, like the Wentz stuff happened after he was already in the league, right? Like it wasn't Wentz in the draft process, cockiness. And I mean, there was the thing of like maybe Carson Wentz isn't a great teammate and his teammates don't really like him all that much. I've heard some of that.
Have people said that about Will Levis?
I don't think so. But like heading into that was a part of the conversation on him draft process wise of just being cocky. Right?
Yeah. Again, we talked about all this stuff. We don't need
some of that's just naturally quarterback though. But
yeah,
whatever.
I mean, in Kentucky they like immediately voted him a captain. I guess they hate him, but
I don't think so.
Were they afraid of him? He's a big dude. They just vote him captain so he wouldn't beat him up.
Maybe that's why they get rid of Vrabel. You know what? Can't have the coach be big and the quarterback be big.
That's right. Yeah,
and then draft Sweat.
People are right.
Can you imagine? This massive locker room in there.
Hope Sweat doesn't coach any time. There's some GMs in this league that would not touch him.
They would not. Big football players. We end the show again on big football players. Garski was excited about
more
that
body shaming. Lots of Oh yeah, that's right. Big football.
There are
players.
some players that are big in the NFL. Oh, I did love that. I'm just glad that the schedule release is over. Like it's one of the funniest things to me every year. And I guess in some ways we're guilty of it. Of hey, the NFL schedule is coming out today. It's great. We already know who they're playing, right? You just know the dates now in which it's happening. Which I understand. Like if you're traveling to a game, that's important information. I mean, I booked a flight yesterday.
Sure.
So
yeah,
it's important information.
No, I mean I booked stuff yesterday. A lot of people did. That's great. So just put it on the internet and we'll do that.
But people were like, 15 minutes until the schedule last night.
Like a countdown clock.
Let's see it when it gets there.
No, I went to NFL Network. It was like some documentary. It was like countdown clock. Good God. I will say, I do like the social media teams doing what they do, and some of them are funny. I mean,
I look forward to your article.
Well, you put it. I mean, what better usage is there of a social media team?
Probably not.
I mean, I'd probably pay more attention to what they're doing this time of year than any other time, right?
I would assume.
So that's a good development.
That does it for us today. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.